I've never really thought about the sense of smell probably this in depth, probably ever. So welcome to the Helping Kids Be Kids podcast. I'm Ann Chinworth, the outreach manager here at Little Lighthouse, and I'm here today with Hannah Jimenez, our director of education, and we are doing a series on sensory needs. And so today we're going to talk about the olfactory sense. Fancy. The olfactory sense is just our sense of smell.
Yep.
But that's a technical term for it. So what is olfactory processing?
So just in like very simple terms, it's how we use our nose to take in smells, and it goes to our brain, and our brain processes that information, and then we use that information to interpret the world around us. So like if I smell freshly cut grass, then I know, I can infer, oh, someone probably just mowed.
Okay. Everyone processes senses differently. So what does that look like for the olfactory sense?
Yeah, so for our sense of smell, there are going to be some people that have a really low threshold for that, which means that they smell things like very strongly, and they smell it right away, and they're able to understand right away what that smell is, good or bad. A lot of times it's like too much, and they're like, ugh. So people who have that low threshold, who smell things more intensely, are going to usually avoid strong smells. So these are people who, like, maybe they walk by a bathroom and are immediately just like, oh, nope, you know, like, I don't want my bathroom. And it's like smells often that we don't think are very strong. So like, you know, I might put on scented lotion and not really think anything of it because I think it smells good, but that smell can be really overwhelming for someone with a really low threshold for that.
Yeah.
So they're going to want to avoid things like scented lotions. On the other side of that, we have people who have a very high threshold for their sense of smell, which means they need more. They need stronger smells to really like process it and understand it. And those are going to be people who love scented things and love like really strong smelling foods. They love like really good like scented lotions. Kids who love like scented markers or like scratch and sniff stickers.
I loved those as a kid.
Yeah, so you might be kind of like a seeker as far as like the sense of smell. It's just anyone who's like really like craving that like those good smells and wanting to smell things all the time.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I just don't even feel like it's one of those senses that I don't really think about that much. But yeah, maybe I am kind of sensory seeking because I love like lotions and perfumes and candles and all those things. So what are some strategies that parents or caretakers or teachers can use in their classrooms or in the community or in their home to help kids who are sensory seeking or sensory avoiding?
Yeah, so when it comes to sense of smell, those kids who are avoiding smells, you're really going to want to think about the different things throughout your home and in your classroom. So like if your classroom has a bathroom connected to it, you're not going to want to have someone who avoids smells sit right by the bathroom because that's all they're going to be able to think about all day long, and they're not going to be able to focus on learning if they're near that bathroom and they're worried about the smell all day long. Even if you think the bathroom doesn't smell, to them it may have kind of just a lingering smell that's always there. Also, like when preparing food, sometimes that can be like really overwhelming for an avoider. So just kind of like thinking about, you know, they may not want to like play in the kitchen while you're cooking food. They may want to like play in a different room because they may not want to like smell that food, or think about just like ventilation. So like opening a window so the smells can go out, using, you know, your exhaust fans in the bathrooms, those kinds of things, so that you don't have lingering smells that are going to be overwhelming. Another tool is to find smells that they do enjoy and help like teach them how to use that as a tool.
Okay.
To mask other smells. So one thing you can do is, I have some essential oils here, and you can actually take like a tissue or like a cotton pad or something, and you just put a little bit of whatever smell they like on it. So like I'm going to put some lavender on this one.
Yum.
And then you can just hold it. Like if there's a really bad smell, just hold it over, and then you have your smell that you like. And that's something, so I'm like a big like smell avoider. Like I don't like smells. And something I catch myself doing, and I do it just like subconsciously, is I smell my hair.
Oh, interesting.
So I sit with my hair over my face.
To smell that
so that I can smell.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I would rather smell my hair product than like other smells around me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I've noticed you doing that, but
I do it a lot.
I never knew it was because of that.
Yeah.
That's so
and
funny.
you can also teach them to like, you can put oils in their hands or like scented lotion in their hands and teach them, you know, to like cup their hands over it to smell that. And that just helps them kind of regulate.
That's great.
And essential oils are a great way also to help seekers. So giving them like kind of the same thing to help them just have some kind of like smell input. Peppermint like can be very alerting, so it can kind of help like wake them up, so you can diffuse it or put it on something for them to use. There's little like necklaces and bracelets and things you can use that are have like the lava rock beads or whatever, you know, and you can put essential oils on them so they can smell that. And then just like kids who love smells, also like having them use those like scented markers to do a project is going to keep them really engaged, because they're like smelling the markers and it's so exciting and they're like getting all that input they need. And like giving them those little scratch and sniff stickers. I've seen teachers use scented chapstick also, not for their mouths, but like they'll put it on their hand. It's like a little like treat, like they'll just like go through and like put a little stripe on everyone's hand, and then they're getting their little sense of.
That's so smart.
Yeah. And they can use all different, you know, scents.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Great.
Yeah. But you do have to be careful with the scented stuff because of like allergies and things.
Yeah.
So just always like knowing the children you're working with and knowing if anyone has an allergy or anything to any of that. But it can be really helpful to just use different scents for all of that.
That's so smart. I like the chapstick thing.
I think it's so cute.
I feel like I don't really hear of sensory meltdowns with like smell. Do you feel like, is that a less common
so
sense, or
I've actually recently thought about this too, because I don't hear a lot about, you know, like teachers will say things about, oh, I have this student who doesn't like loud sounds, or I have this student who doesn't like strong flavors and things like that. You hear a lot about like noises causing problems in the classrooms and lots of kids needing headphones. But you don't hear a lot about like, oh, this kid's very bothered by smells. And so we're like accommodating all these needs. And I think part of it is that it's hard for us to tell when it's a smell, because we're not always noticing the smell. And then it's hard for kids to communicate.
Yeah, so we don't even like think of it as the possible reason, because we're not smelling it.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those things that's like important to kind of keep in the back of your mind and remember that a smell could be the problem.
Yeah.
So I actually saw a story on Instagram the other day. There's this guy named Torrin Wolf that I follow. And he's one of my favorite people that I follow. He's 16 and he has autism and ADHD. And he just shares about his experiences just growing up. And the other day he posted a video, and it was him and his mom, and they did like a little story time. And his mom was talking about how he would spit all the time when he was little. And he would just like constantly was like spitting on the floor, and it was becoming an issue at school because he was spitting all the time.
Oh no.
And there was one day that he spit, like they thought it was at another child, which his mom was like, I know he's not spitting at a child. And it turns out that he was spitting like at the ground next to the child. And so they're kind of like problem solving and trying to figure out, you know, why he's spitting, you know, like towards this other child, all the things. And it turned out that it was smells causing it. In the instance where he spit like towards the other kid was because the other little boy was gassy.
Oh my gosh.
And he didn't like the smell, and he was overwhelmed by it. And he had learned on Magic School Bus that when you smell something, those particles are actually like going into your nose and your mouth.
So he was spitting to get rid of it.
He was spitting to get rid of it.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
As a 16-year-old now, he can express that this is why I was spitting, because I understood that the particles were in my mouth, and if I spit, I could get the smell to get out of my mouth.
That is so funny.
But I would think of spitting as probably being some kind of like, you know, like oral sensory need, and that they were spitting because it like felt good, or it got some kind of, you know, they didn't want to swallow their spit or something, I would never have put it together as
he's smelling something bad, so he wants to get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. And it's awesome that he has those skills now to like tell you like what he was thinking. You're like, oh, that makes sense. Like why you thought that.
Yeah.
And retain that information from magic school bus.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that was a really cool example of like learning from like adults and teenagers who have these different diagnoses.
Yeah.
Because their lived experiences are so much more accurate than maybe what we're able to just observe on our own.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's like we can observe them, like you said, and try to make guesses about what they're, feeling or thinking. But that's so awesome. So are there like olfactory specialists, like smell specialists? I don't know who would be able to help with that.
Yeah. So with that, you're really going to rely on, obviously, your OT. Yeah. So occupational therapists are just highly trained in all sensory needs. So they're going to be very knowledgeable on that and be able to help with that. And then speech language pathologists can also help with things having to do with smell as well. Anything that has to do with like feeding. So, when you eat, smelling it is such a big part of it. So both of those professionals are going to be really helpful. And they both do a lot of different things to help with smell. Yeah. And there's a lot of like just really successful things they can do and treatments they can do to help. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. Well, very interesting. I'm like, I've never really thought about the sense of smell. Probably this in depth, probably ever. So. Great. Do you have anything else to add? Or?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, great. I think that's it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in to our series about the senses. Hope you guys are learning some new stuff. I know I'm learning a lot. And yeah, we'll see you next time.